Hey everyone, welcome back to Build at Home. I'm your host, Brittany Jones Cooper, coming to you from my home in Harlem, New York City. I'm really excited to be chatting with today's guest, Laura Prepon. But before we get started, I want to remind you guys about the campaign No Kid Hungry. There's a lot of kids who depend on school for food, and because of school cancellations due to the coronavirus, 505 million school meals have gone unserved. And so if you are looking for a way to help, if you want to impact those communities, visit nokidhungry.org. And now I want to welcome our guest. You know her from shows like That 70s Show and Orange is the New Black. And today, Laura Prepon is here to talk about her new book, You and I as Mothers. Welcome, Laura. How are you?
Hi, Brittany. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Yes. So first, I want to check in with you. How are you doing? How long have you been social distancing? How are things going?
It's surreal. It's very surreal, especially because I have a newborn at home,
Hmm.
and thank goodness that he came before everything, before the lockdown started happening and the social distancing started happening. I mean, I have friends that are going into labor that their partners aren't even allowed in the
I
hospital.
know.
So thank goodness he came when he did. But we've just trying to stay positive and laugh when we can. It's so important to find moments of levity in these types of situations because we've never experienced anything like this in our lifetime. So we're trying to do whatever we can to stay positive.
Yeah. And you have a brand new baby at home, and then you also have a toddler, right? A little girl.
Yes, I have a 2.5-year-old and a newborn.
So, what are the days looking like for you? How are you sort of I know balancing all of that and then trying to find some time for yourself and just sort of that whole aspect of it.
It's pretty nonstop. It's
Yeah.
it's uh it's I hear these stories about people who are reorganizing their closets and their pantries, and I'm like, how? How are you doing that? Um but it's great. I The fact that we're still able to do things like this where I can hang out and talk to you and be able to get word out about the book and just have some communication and with community and like this is very, very cool. And I think that especially now, community is so important with the social distancing and everything that's going on. So to be able to have stuff like this that we can do where we can have conversations like this is really awesome. So
Yeah.
again, it's been very, very busy, and I'm doing my virtual book tour, and I feel like because we have the baby and our toddler, I feel like I'm running a school and a restaurant and I have the book tour. It's like it's crazy, but we're doing what we can, just like everybody, just
Yeah.
like just like everybody.
I think I saw on your social media though you were intending to take a little more time away, but you kind of came back to social media sooner just because of everything and the book and
Yes, I mean, especially on my YouTube channel, I felt like my videos are about preparation, using
Mhm.
preparation to give yourself an edge. And I felt like, especially now with everything we're dealing with, I felt I felt that I had to come back sooner to help. I felt like it was
Yeah.
something I could do to at least help in some way. Um, to again put communication out there with my community, and the fact that it has to do with preparation, it's so applicable to stuff that we could be using right now more than ever. So that's
Hmm.
why I decided to come back earlier. And but it's great because I'll do something like this and then I'll go, my husband's watching the kids, and then I'll go and be able to hang out with the baby and my daughter and my husband, and we're really working from home. You're able to really have that time with your family.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to, utilize that as much as possible because it's rare to be able to have that as a working parent. So
Absolutely.
we're just trying to enjoy it.
Yeah. And your book comes at a good time because I know there's a lot of expectant mothers at home. There's a lot of women who are about to have their babies. There's a lot of new moms at home. And I think it's so hard to be a parent these days because there's so many different rules you feel like you have to follow. So
Right.
why did you want to write this book now and who are you trying to reach with the book?
Well, it's a good question because I feel like a lot of people think about they hear the words postpartum and they immediately think about postpartum depression or something like
Hmm.
that. This book is not It's not about the fourth trimester, which is the time right after you give birth. this book is for mothers of all ages.
Mm,
And I specifically share so many vulnerable and intimate experiences that I've already gone through and just my life in general.
hmm
And as well as I talk to in this eclectic, awesome group of moms of all ages, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, to weigh in on different aspects of motherhood. So particularly because I wanted my book to speak to mothers of all ages, as well as I can't tell you actually how many people who are not yet mothers, who may choose not to become a mother, who are still
hmm
getting a lot out of the book, and partners reading it just to have a better understanding of what their partner's going through as a
Yeah.
mother. So I cover a lot of different topics and issues that I myself was dealing with. And my husband one day said to me, he's like, you can't be the only one dealing with this. You should really
hmm
write this down. And that was one of the things that really made me start putting this down into words. And it ultimately grew into this amazing book that I'm so proud of. But again, there's a lot of scared moms out there in general. And I get it, because
hmm
we've never experienced this before. This is a
Mm-mm.
really scary time. And if my book can provide some, empathy and community, and so you can read it and feel less alone, that was really important to me.
Mm.
And I really hope that that's what people get out of reading it. There's so many things that I touch on, and I also have a whole section with recipes and cooking, and because I love that stuff.
hmm
And yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait for people to have it in their hands.
And that it comes out today, right?
Yeah.
So people can order it today,
Yeah,
which
they
is
can
so
order it right
exciting.
now.
uh,
I'm already on social media. I'm already getting all of these wonderful texts and comments and all this stuff about people they're already on like chapter 5,
oh,
because
that's
because
awesome.
they could get the ebook, and then people have pre-ordered it, and it's really exciting. Yeah.
I think it's so exciting because from the excerpts I've read, you're very vulnerable and open, and you talk a lot about your postpartum anxiety. And I think, especially in a time right now, like right now, a lot of people can relate to that. So, why was it time for you to like open up about the things that you've been through and being vulnerable? And was it ever hard to share certain stories or experiences?
Well, in terms of the anxiety in general right now, you're totally right. A lot of people are experiencing anxiety. And in the book, it was really important to me to have tools where when you read the
Mm,
book, you, at the end of, in every chapter, I give tools of how to deal with those particular things. And so that's another thing that will speak to exactly
hmm
what you just said, the fact that there is so much anxiety going on right now, whether you're a mother or not. And those kind of tools can just help so much. The reason why I felt like it was really important to have an honest conversation, because I
hmm
felt like so many women were felt embarrassed or shameful to say this is not easy. You know what I mean?
hmm
It's not easy. It's the most incredible, joyous, like life altering thing I've ever experienced, and it's also the most terrifying. So that's the thing, but you would never go back. I would never go back. I don't know. I don't even know. I feel like when I became a mother, I woke up,
Mm,
and I can't even, my life before was just so different, and I felt like there was so much not being talked about. I felt like there was so much in terms of motherhood, just the whole thing of motherhood, not just new mom, just motherhood in general.
yeah.
There was so much not being talked about, because I feel like a lot of women felt like they couldn't be honest about it. And I remember asking one of my friends when I was pregnant, I asked one of my friends who had already had her child, I was like, so what do I need to look out for? Because I need to be prepared.
Yeah,
I'm all about prep. And I'm
me
like,
too.
what do I need to look out for? And she literally looked over both of her shoulders and leaned in. And I was like, why are we whispering? Why is this a secret? Like, why? What? And it was such an eye opener for me, because I'm like, why are we whispering about the fact that motherhood is not
Yeah.
this easy thing all the time? There's nothing wrong with that. And the more I really looked at my own experiences and started talking to my mom squad about like what is happening here, I realized a commonality of a lot of things that we're all dealing with.
Hmm.
and the fact that it's not being talked about. So that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to write this book, is to open that conversation and make it safe to have
Hmm.
these conversations and not to
Yeah.
feel bad about it, you know?
Mhm. I have to say, I don't have children, but a lot of my friends do. I have a massive family. And I find that a lot of people will be very candid with me because I'm not a mother. And they
Right.
feel like they can share because I'm not going to judge them. Versus sometimes if they share with other mothers, they're so worried about doing it wrong or people critiquing it. And I just feel like that must be so frustrating because all you're looking for is community, you know?
Exactly. And you bring up a really good point. I've never understood this mom shaming thing. I don't I don't get that. And
Yeah.
I'm also like, why? Like we're all just trying to, you know, be better and do the best that we can. And whether you're a working parent or a stay-at-home parent, it is just as hard. You
Hmm.
know, so we all, it's just, community is so important. Being able to help each other is so important. So I don't understand that kind of, you know what I mean? Like
I don't
I don't get it.
either.
I don't surround myself with that stuff. And my communication that I try to put out there is to build that community around yourself, so you have that support group. And I hope my book is a part of that.
Absolutely. And how much has the journey of becoming a mother, writing this book, connecting with your mom squad, how has that sort of made you look back on your own mother and how has that impacted you? You know, like how has your own mother and that relationship impacted how you mother?
I kind of, it's kind of a weird analogy, but I kind of think about it like, when I grew up in a very eccentric, unconventional upbringing, and I'm the youngest of five kids, and it was like Wild Kingdom for real. Like it was, I've never had a rule in my life. I've never been told to do my homework. I've never been grounded. I've literally, like, we had a very, very unconventional upbringing. And we do call it Wild Kingdom. We're like, oh yeah, whatever, that was Wild Kingdom. And you know, my mom was a very eccentric person, which is wonderful. But I I kind of liken it to, I used to be really into kickboxing and really into mixed martial arts. I
Hmm.
was friends with a ton of fighters. I would watch all of these UFC fights. I would fly around the country to go to fights. It was just like it was a big part of my life. Now as a parent, not so much anymore, but it was. And when my friends would be training for a fight, they would tell me that right before a fight, you never add in a new move. You never learn a brand new thing, because then innately, when you go into this fight and you go into survival mode, you fall back on what's instinctively in you.
Mm.
Or and you fall back into your like survival instincts. When I became a mom, I was so blindsided and so not myself, and hormones are real. And
Yeah.
I was so all over the place, and I didn't know. I had so much anxiety, which is not me. I am not an anxious person. I'm
Mm.
not a worrier in general. I'm like the person that people go to get things done. And I pride myself on that. And I've always just kind of been that. And when I became a mom, I felt so inadequate at doing
Mm.
anything. It was the craziest thing. And you know, instinctively I fell back on how I was mothered.
Mm.
Instinctively, similar to the fight thing of fighters instinctively go back to what's naturally in them, in their body, that's been like trained in their muscles. I went naturally back to how I was raised.
Mm.
And it was the first time in my life that I really looked at how I was mothered and how it's
Hmm.
affecting me now, not only as a woman, but as a mother.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, Brittany, it was a reckoning. Like it was like coming to terms with, wow, I had, whether I made excuses for it my whole life, and I was like, ah, we're just an eccentric family, or my
Right.
mom's just an eccentric, or whatever. And because some of the things that were passed down to me were very dysfunctional. Some
I read
things,
the People magazine article where you talk about your mother and eating disorders and the impact that's had on you. So that's the vulnerability that I was sort of speaking of. I
yeah,
mean, it's just such a personal story, but I think also is going to impact so many women.
I can't tell you how many people since reading that have reached out to me just
Mm.
to say thank you so much for talking about it, because it's something that, the thing that's tough about struggling with something like that is
Hmm.
that, which is surrounded around food, whether you're anorexic or bulimic or have some kind of unhealthy relationship with food, is that you have to eat to survive. You can't just quit smoking or stop drinking alcohol or some kind of drugs or something like that. You have to eat to survive. So you're
Hmm.
constantly being triggered. And I think that's why it's such a difficult thing to get a handle on. And the other thing that I didn't know, which someone shared with me once that People article came out, was that if you have a female in your house who is like an opinion leader to you, who has an eating disorder, you're 10 times more likely to get that. And
Hmm.
I was shocked when I heard that. When I heard that, I started crying because I was so, the things that people were sharing with me after reading that article, and that they felt, number one, they felt closer to me because
Hmm.
I'm normally very, I tend to keep stuff like that private.
Yeah, you're very
Um,
strong. You come off as very strong.
Thank you. I mean, it's weird. It's not like something I mean to do,
No.
but I think it's just because I've been working since such a young age, and I lived in a foreign country by myself at the age of 15 for a year and a half, and I had to like take care of myself.
Yeah.
So again, eccentric upbringing, that's a whole other story. But but I think because of that, I just have always like just been a certain way to just get the thing done, protect myself, be safe, be careful about who I let in. I've always been like that. So the fact that when it came to having this conversation about motherhood, that I really wanted to drop my defenses and share these truths, I was, it's a vulnerable place to be.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm getting this feedback of people saying how much it helped them, I can't tell you how much that means to me. And then also to see the statistics of how many women this is affecting in terms of having someone in your home that's affecting
Hmm.
you like this. I started crying. I'm not kidding. Like the fact that people feel like they're seen and heard because of it makes me so happy that I could do that.
Wow.
Um, Again, it's a sense of community.
Yeah.
My community is just awesome. I'm so thankful for it. I
Yeah.
really
When
am.
that statistic, you just saying that impacted, I mean, so many women in my life. I remember joining a sorority and sitting around the dinner table and seeing it for the first time, really seeing how mothers had passed on disordered eating to their daughters. And I
Right.
didn't have a mother who did that, and I had never seen it or experienced it. And it does impact so many people. So when I read your story, I just thought, I was like, wow, that's really moving and really powerful. And I think a lot of people are going to connect to that, you know?
Thank you. But
Yeah, yeah.
you know what else it is though too? It's the fact that it was this thing that it was a shared experience
Yeah.
with my mom. It was something that it was like this shared secret. It's this thing that we did together because I so badly wanted to this is what's so complicated about relationships with your parents.
Hmm.
My mom is the coolest, and she has Alzheimer's now, but when she
Hmm.
was her, before the
Hmm.
disease took over, she's the coolest, smartest, like quit like you walk into a room and Marjorie is there. Like she's a badass. And she also had this dysfunction as well. So you trying to come to terms with that kind of complicated relationship that so many people have with their parents.
Hmm.
It is, and what forced me to do that was becoming a mother. And that's why I write about it in the book, because how you were mothered affects you. We
Absolutely.
all came from some mother figure,
Hmm.
and you have a relationship or not with that person, which affects you,
Hmm.
you know? And it's such a complicated thing to look at. It's a very complicated thing, but I really hope that when you're reading the book, I ask the reader a lot of questions and different things to, reflect on
Right.
in their own life. And I really hope that it provokes those kinds of thoughts of what are the good things that were passed down? What were the things that were not so good?
Hmm.
And it's been such an interesting experience, but I got to tell you, I've gotten so much out of just the process of writing this book
Hmm.
and the healing that came from it. It's amazing.
It
It's
seems very
amazing.
therapeutic, for sure. And before we go, how important is it for you to have that community of women around you? You've mentioned your community and your mom squad. Just what impact does that have on you every day in being a mother?
Especially now with what's going on, it's so important to have people you can lean on.
Mhm.
And for me to have this group of women that when it came to things that I didn't know, that I could ask and, share stories with, and what I was going through, and people who weren't going to judge me,
Mhm.
is really important. And I find that I have an entire chapter where I talk about building a community. And again, because I give tools in the book, I give specific ways of how to go about that, and
Mhm.
different ideas you can do to help build your particular mom squad, or your, group of friends, and just building community in general. And I feel like now, especially with the social distancing, I think that it's more important now than ever, truthfully.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It really is. It really is. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope
thanks,
that
Brittany.
when we are back in business that you can come in studio and we can chat even more. I think the issues that you're covering in this book are so impactful for so many women. And I love that it's part memoir, part handbook, and people are going to walk away with some actionable steps or things that they can do.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to coming in the studio. I love being in the studio, but this was awesome too. So
This is
thank you.
also very cool. Yes.
Yeah.
Happy social distancing. Congrats on the new baby. Enjoy all that cuddle time. And you guys
Thanks,
make sure you
Brittany.
check out her book, You and I as Mothers. It's available now wherever books are sold. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.